Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the special Cabinet meeting. I am Councillor Andrew Husband, Leader of Durham County Council and Chair of this meeting. This meeting is being broadcast live through our YouTube channel. Before we commence with today's formal business, I would like to cover some of the housekeeping issues for us all to follow. Please switch off or make silent your mobile phones and all other devices. Keep microphones switched off at all times unless invited to speak by myself as the Chair. When invited to speak, please switch on the microphone nearest to you and introduce yourself. Item 1, apologies for absence, none received. Item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members? Thank you. Before we move into the substantive part of the agenda, we have received 5 questions from members. 2 questions on item 3 from Councillors Wilkes and Shuttleworth, 2 questions on item 4 from Councillor Wilkes and Freeman, and 1 question on item 5 from Councillor Wilkes again. For each item, I will ask the officer to present the report and then invite the relevant member to put their question. The Cabinet member will then respond. Please note that there is no provision for supplementary questions or discussion in respect of the answers. Item 3. Reform Interim Priorities and Council Plan. Can I invite Steve Evans, Head of Corporate Affairs, to present the report?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. I'm Steve Evans, Head of Corporate Affairs. Following discussion with the Cabinet, I've brought a paper covering the interim Council priorities and how these are to be incorporated into the new Council Plan for your consideration. The report sets out the priorities of the new administration at the earliest opportunity so that the organisation can begin delivery without delay. Subject to consultation, these will form the basis of the Council Plan for 2025 to 2030, which will be considered by full Council in October 2025. The Council Plan is our principal corporate planning document. It explores how we will effectively deliver our day-to-day services, our longer-term ambitions, and contribute to achieving the County Durham vision. It will be a key document in the LGA corporate peer review later this year. The Council Plan usually covers a period of 4 years and is reviewed each year to ensure it remains relevant within budget and timescale. The current plan was approved by the previous administration and Council in February 2025 and would normally be reviewed over the second half of the calendar year. However, following the change of administration, it's felt that the plan no longer reflects the political priorities of the new authority. Therefore, a full rewrite has been requested. In developing the new plan, the authority will follow the good practice, specifically government's best value standards, which define the characteristics of a well-functioning council. Therefore, the plan will be evidence-based, current and realistic. It will enable the whole organisation's performance to be measured and therefore held to account. It will align our strategic priorities with the authority's financial strategy, and it will respond appropriately to local needs, including the plans of partners and stakeholders. The updated plan will be informed by a programme of consultation and engagement with members, officers, the public and stakeholders. The consultation feedback will be gathered both digitally through online surveys and dedicated email address and through paper surveys available at our customer access points, libraries or upon request. The new plan will give the reader an immediate sense of our strategic direction and what we are intending to do. It will fully align with the medium-term financial plan and retain the golden thread through to the vision of County Durham 2035. The report sets out a proposed framework of 5 ambitions for the new plan. These are reforming the council, supercharging our economy, building better communities, caring for our people, and practical environmental stewardship. We will measure progress towards our ambitions, objectives and priorities through a revised performance framework. The report will be shared publicly through quarterly performance reports. The recommendations are set out in the report, and these are for Cabinet to agree the proposed framework set out in the report as the interim strategic direction for the Council's priorities, subject to consultation on the new Council Plan and consideration by full Council, and approve consultation to commence with immediate effect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Councillor Wilkes, can I invite you to ask your question, please, if you are present? It's disappointing not to receive the courtesy of an apology for attendance. Would anyone else like to ask his question on his behalf? Darren, I'll ask you the question. The new administration has frozen large areas of capital spending. Can the portfolio holder confirm if any of the projects which have been frozen are invest to save projects, and if so, which ones?
Thank you very much. The new administration and the Cabinet have requested and commenced a detailed and forensic review of the Council's capital spending commitments and overall capital budgets. This review has been commenced by officers, and detailed analysis has been provided to Cabinet at this stage for their consideration. Further assessment and clarification of schemes in the current capital programme will take place throughout the discussions between senior officers and Cabinet members. Capital spending continues to take place where spend is contractually committed and schemes that have already commenced, or capital budgets on essential or business critical schemes. This review also considers the value for money of the capital programme, the funding sources for individual capital schemes, including where schemes are funded by borrowing, and the extent to which the scheme delivers invest to save benefits. The outcomes of this review are to be concluded as quickly as possible, and the results of this assessment will be outlined as part of a report for Cabinet's consideration. Hopefully Councillor Wilkes will be here for that.
Thank you, Darren. Councillor Shuttleworth, can I invite you to ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. In order to have good governance, council members and officers must abide by a set of rules, a code of conduct. Within the parameters of this, how can the reform group strive for good governance when they want free speech and unrestricted speech at that? Thank you.
Thank you. The question received was, how can the reform group strive for good governance when they want free speech? Can I invite Councillor Grimes, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Finance, Policy and Communications, to respond, please?
Absolutely. The point of this is pretty simple. We are all bound by British law, right? Free speech isn't the enemy of good governance. Actually, it's the foundation of it. Good governance thrives on open debate, proper scrutiny, and the ability to challenge decisions without fear of being silenced. When councils operate in echo chambers, where dissenting voices are shut down, well, that's when you get the kind of groupthink that leads to poor decision-making and wasted taxpayer cash. This council believes that robust discussion is the right way to actually express different viewpoints, even uncomfortable ones, dare I say, leading to better outcomes for our residents. Free speech allows councillors to represent their constituents and residents honestly, challenges consensus, and ensures that all sides of an argument are heard before decisions are made. That's not a threat to good governance. That's exactly what good governance looks like.
Thank you, Councillor Grimes. Can I thank Steve and his team for the report? Since June 2022, the Council has received an updated and refreshed Council plan on an annual basis alongside the MTFP and budget setting reports. Following the recent local elections and overwhelming political mandate provided to this new administration, we have been focused on delivering the change that people voted for. The current Council plan, which was agreed by the previous administration and Council in February, no longer reflects the political priorities of this Council. Therefore, the interim framework outlined in this report represents a fundamental reset for the organisation's strategic priorities. It is intended to ensure that clear direction is provided to officers and a clear statement of intent to the public and partners whilst we consult on a new council plan. This clarity of purpose is critical as we develop our transformation plans and work with our Department of Local Government Efficiency to deliver value for money. This administration will focus on practical outcomes that residents can understand, see and value. It will enable common sense governance that delivers value for money, as well as efficient decision making that gets things done. Local places and local people are at the heart of this administration, and this framework sets out how we intend to drive forward improvements across our county in order to deliver on our commitments. As Steve mentioned, the framework will be consulted on with members, officers, the public and stakeholders, and when agreed will form the basis of a new council plan to be considered by full council in October 2025. The new plan will set the direction for the next 5 years, transforming how the council operates and its relationship with communities. In conclusion, this report sets out an interim framework which will refocus priorities on delivering efficient, effective services that residents can see, value and afford. With that, I move that Cabinet approves the interim priorities and proposed consultation. Can I invite Councillor Grimes, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Finance, Policy and Communications, to second the report?
Can I also thank Steve and his team for the work undertaken to actually pull together this framework. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you and your team. I, of course, welcome the review of our priorities in the light of the change of administration and can see that the emerging priorities are now a reflection of our political will. The framework we're considering today sets out the actions that we will lead on and take forward. It focuses on the things that will make a difference to the people and the businesses of County Durham. The report provides the interim guidance needed regarding the will of the new administration until a new council plan can be consulted upon and agreed by council in October. Furthermore, the consultation period proposed will ensure that our plans are further developed by listening to the views of our communities and local businesses. Some more of that lovely free speech stuff. And with that, I second the report and move the recommendations.
Thank you. Are there any other Cabinet members wishing to speak? Does Cabinet agree the recommendations? Thank you. Item 4. Consideration of an Article 4 direction covering changes of use from Class C3 to Class C4. Can I invite Tony Hanson, Corporate Director of Regeneration, Economy and Growth, to present the report?
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everyone. This report seeks authorisation to make and consult on a non-immediate Article 4 direction to remove permitted development rights under planning legislation for changes of use from dwelling houses, use Class C3, to small houses in multiple occupation, HMOs, use Class 4, for the whole of the county other than those areas that are already covered by existing Article 4s. In October 2010, the government made changes to planning rules to allow dwelling houses occupied by people living together as a single household to change to a small HMO with between 3 and 6 residents without the need for planning application. This is referred to as permitted development. Where local authorities consider that there is a local need to control the spread of HMOs in specific areas, they can use existing powers to remove this form of permitted development and thereby require the submission of a planning application for such change of use. An Article 4 direction is the mechanism to achieve this. The National Plan and Policy Framework sets out the use of Article 4 directions should be limited to situations where this is necessary to prevent and protect local amenity or the well-being of an area. County Durham already has 3 Article 4 directions with withdraw permitted development rights for changes of use to small HMOs covering Durham City, Fromelgate, Moor, Newton Hall and Pitty-May, and Mount Oswald, Carville and Belmont. These were progressed due to certain areas experiencing concentrations of student HMO properties. However, there's now evidence that outside of these areas there's been an increase in HMOs, including concentrations in particular areas. An Article 4 would enable the Council to use its planning powers to introduce a measure of control in respect of HMOs across the county by requiring applications to be made for planning permission. Planning applications for small HMOs would be assessed against the policies in the adopted County Durham Plan, the National Plan and Policy Framework and any relevant neighbourhood plans. The existing County Durham Plan HMO policy refers to student HMOs, reflecting the evidence at the time the County Durham Plan was being developed and would not be effective in respect of non-student HMOs. A new HMO policy will be required, which can be included in the new County Durham Plan, although introducing an interim policy will also be considered. An Article 4 direction can be implemented with an immediate direction or a non-immediate direction. In the case of an immediate direction, the Council will be liable to compensation claims for applications that have been refused or subject to more stringent conditions as a result of the Article 4 for the first 12 months. A non-immediate direction gives 12 months notice before it comes into effect, which overcomes any liability for compensation. An Article 4 direction cannot apply retrospectively. It would have no effect on the existing HMOs or would not require landlords of existing HMOs to do anything. nor can it apply to any development that has been commenced at the time that a direction comes into force. Subject to Cabinet agreeing to making of the Article 4 direction, the Director of Legal and Democratic Services will be instructed to make the direction. Statutory publicity and consultation will then be undertaken. The Secretary of State must be notified and has the power to amend or remove an Article 4 direction proposed by a local planning authority. Following the consultation period taking into account representations received, a decision will then need to be made on whether or not to confirm the Article 4 direction. Whilst non-immediate Article 4 direction is recommended, officers have been asked to continue to collate evidence across the county, and if the evidence suggests that there is a need for an immediate Article 4 direction to cover specific areas, then further reports will be presented to Cabinet at the appropriate time. Chair, that concludes my report. The recommendations are set out in paragraph 8 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. The next question was once again from Councillor Wilkes. I think what we'll do in this case is provide a written response. I think everyone should be happy with that decision. We'll move on to the next question. Councillor Freeman, can I invite you to ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor David Freeman, Councillor for Elvett, Gilesgate and Shincliffe. Could the relevant portfolio holder please confirm what they have calculated as the likely cost of the rollout of an Article 4 direction across County Durham will be in terms of officer time, financial outlay, additional planning costs including appeals and any other costs, and how many HMOs does the Cabinet member expect to be turned down each year should this direction be approved by Government? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Fox, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Economy and Partnerships, to respond to the question, please?
Thank you, Chair. There will be costs involved in the making of the direction in relation to the publicity procedure. The cost of publishing notices in local papers and printing site displays can be met from existing budgets. It is estimated it will take 8 officers half a day to display the site notices across the county, and this will be resourced from existing teams. These publicity requirements will need to be repeated should the Article 4 be confirmed. Since January 2018, councils have been able to charge planning fees for planning applications resulting from permitted development rights being removed through an Article 4 direction. So we will be able to charge the relevant planning fee, as is the case with other planning applications. On planning appeals, this will be dependent on how many planning applications are received, subsequently refused, and whether or not the applicant then chooses to appeal. We cannot prejudice how many applications will be refused, as this will be dependent on the specifics of the application. Applications must be determined in accordance with the statutory development plan for the area, unless other material considerations indicate otherwise. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Fox, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Economy and Partnerships, to move the report?
Thank you, Chair. So, during the past few years, there has been a steady increase in HMOs outside of Durham City, with the number rising more significantly since 2021. Residents have expressed concerns that the increase in HMOs is negatively impacting upon residential amenity and local character. In these circumstances, it is considered an Article 4 is needed to enable the proper planning of the county and to maintain mixed and balanced communities by requiring planning applications to be submitted for proposed C4 HMO use. There will be a consultation period and responses will be considered before a decision is made as to whether to confirm the Article 4 direction. I encourage residents and other interested parties to respond to this consultation. I therefore propose the recommendations in paragraph 8 of the report.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Lyons, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Stronger Communities and Belonging, to second the report?
Thank you, Chair. HMOs can provide a more affordable form of accommodation for a wide range of groups. However, an over-concentration of this type of household can have a negative impact on day-to-day life for communities, often because of issues such as increased noise, the general appearance of properties, refuse management and parking issues. They can also have a more long-term implications, such as a loss of a family housing and an impact on community cohesion due to a more transient population. The measure we're proposing will allow us to control the number of HMOs and lead to better distribution, helping to maintain mixed and balanced communities across the county. I therefore second the recommendations in paragraph 8 in the report.
Thank you. Are there any of the Cabinet members wishing to speak? Councillor Quinn.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to start off by thanking those that turned up last week outside with their signs. Now, I know what everybody's probably thinking, well, they were here to protest you, or us. Well, actually, Chair, there were two sets of people outside. There were those that were here against us, but there were also people that were out there in full support of Article 4, and have been out there many times in the past. Perhaps, Chair, members that were outside speaking didn't get the chance to speak to the other parties, or in fact didn't even know they were there. They were there to ask this council to implement Article 4. Chair, this administration was elected with a very clear mandate, common sense politics and listening to the public. We've listened to the public. Last week we undeclared a climate emergency and declared a Clare emergency. This week we look to implement Article 4. Chairman, I fully support the recommendations in this report.
Thank you. Does Cabinet agree the recommendations? Moving on to item 5. Financial Planning and Transformation. Can I invite John Hewitt, Chief Executive, to present the report?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. This report sets out and consolidates the work of the Council as it prepares its budget for 26-27 next financial year and develops its transformation plans. The report also sets out a process for incorporating any work from the reformed Doge unit into the Council's processes and ensuring appropriate governance and controls are in place. The report sets out that the Council's financial management arrangements are well documented and our approach to identifying and delivering savings is well established. Building on this, the Council is establishing a transformation programme which will be aligned to our medium-term financial planning processes to ensure that we align resources to areas that can release savings and improve services. The report also sets out the expected work of the reform Doge unit based on the approach taken at some other councils and provides details of the governance arrangements that will need to be put in place to ensure data security, reporting of information and access to council data. Paragraph 30 of the report sets out the recommendations and details of how a review will be undertaken and resourced, and the recommendations are set out in paragraph 4, Chair.
Thank you, John. Councillor Wilkes had yet another question, but once again we will just provide the answer to that question in writing. So we move on. This is an important report that sets out how we will go about identifying savings to help to balance our budgets and that we have appropriate governance arrangements in place. We know that there are already sound governance processes in place to manage the MTFP process, and we are working with officers to bring forward a new transformation programme which will look at new and different ways of providing services in the future. The Doge work that is being planned in reform councils adds to the tools at our disposal to identify new opportunities, and we've set out in paragraphs 11 and 12 some key areas of focus to assist us in setting a balanced budget. The work of Doge is still to be set out and agreed, and we want to ensure that it aligns with our work programme here in County Durham and that it adds value to the commitments we have made to identify savings and opportunities going forward. It is important that we have appropriate governance arrangements in place for any data-related work undertaken in the Council. The report sets out how we will ensure appropriate governance arrangements are established and that the required delegations are in place for any Doge work that we agree to undertake. I'm happy to move the recommendations set out in the report. Can I invite Councillor Grimes, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Finance, Policy and Communications, to second the report?
Thank you, Chair. I support your comments in relation to the report. It's important that our council is open and transparent and setting out how we actually align our medium-term financial planning, transformation work and the work of Doge, enabling us to plan effectively and avoid inefficient use of stretched resources. As has been said, we've already started work in many of the areas set out in the report as we move towards setting next year's budget and identifying efficiencies, and the governance arrangements set out will ensure that we have processes in place for any new activity. With that, I'm happy to second the recommendations. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other Cabinet members wishing to speak? Does Cabinet agree the recommendations? Thank you. Moving to item 6, exclusion of the public. Can I have a mover?
I move to exclude the press and public, Chair.
And seconder?
I second that, Chair.
Can I ask the Cabinet to agree the resolution? That concludes the public business for this part of the meeting. I would like to thank everyone for taking part and to those members of the public and media who have watched this meeting.